Hello and welcome to the operational and instructional video for this 2009 Adria Coral. So I'll walk you around the outside and then we'll move on to all the operational controls on the inside. So first things first, the bonnet release catch on this model is just here. So that's how you release the bonnet. This model has been fitted with a concertina blackout blind on the windscreen, which is operated by pinching these two. You release those little catches there. You can see with the sun, these little catches here. So you pull that one down and push that one up, and then that'll allow you to draw the blind across. And it's got a magnetic strip on it, which corresponds to a magnetic strip on the other side. So when you put these back, just make sure that those little clips are holding the blind properly in place, because if you're cornering and that blind shoots across, if it's not clipped into place, it'll impede your vision while you're driving. This model on the side windows has got these curtains for blackout, so they have got press studs on the front of those. So if you undo the velcro, draw those across, and then there's corresponding press studs on this trim here, so that blacks out the windscreen and the side windows. The tyre pressures are displayed on this pillar here, but it might be worth just referring to the actual tyres themselves, because sometimes they use specialist camper tyres with higher pressures. So moving on to the bonnet, underneath the bonnet then. So underneath here we have washer fluid fill, power steering, brake fluid, coolant, oil fill. The dipstick is just there with the yellow tab on it. If you ever need to jump start the vehicle, the battery is housed underneath the floor on the passenger side in the cab, so it's not easily accessible. So to jump start it, you put your positive terminal, your red terminal onto here, and then your negative or earth onto here. So your black cable onto there and your red one onto there, and that's how you jump start it or jump start another vehicle from it. So that's the engine side of things dealt with. Your fuel is filled just here, and you need the key for that. So diesel fuel into there. To fill the water tank, so it's got an onboard freshwater tank which fulfills all your needs for the water on the inside of the vehicle. You just fill this with a hose pipe until it pours out, and the tank is inside underneath the forward facing dinette seat. I'll show you how to drain that down when we go inside, and it is important that that's drained down, particularly in winter. If water's left in there and it freezes, it'll expand and it'll end up damaging the tank and the pipe work. The drain for that is inside, so we'll come to that when we go inside. The next locker along is the toilet cassette. So all the toilet waste from the loo inside ends up in this cassette here. So to empty this, there's this little tab here. You lift that up, slide this out, and then if this was then full of toilet waste, what you do is slide this nozzle across like so, unscrew the cap on the end, and then pour the waste away by turning this upside down and letting the waste flow out of this tube here. As you're letting the waste flow out, press this button in and it lets air into the cassette as the liquid is flowing out, so it prevents any glugging and splashing. This cassette requires a chemical to break down all the solids and all the smells. So to fill it full of the chemical, once you've emptied it, slide this back, and then just turn this valve and it opens up the cassette so that you've got access to it. So when you've emptied it, probably fill it full of fresh water, swill it around, and then empty it again, and then put the chemical into here, the desired amount of blue chemical, and a little bit of water in the bottom, and then it's ready to use again. So the toilet chemical is available. You can buy it when you pick up the motorhome if you need any. You can also buy sachets, which are a bit easier than pouring the liquid into there. So that's how the toilet side of things is dealt with. And then to put it back in, it just simply slides back in. Make sure that that clip is in position. When you're sliding this back in, just make sure that that valve there is facing that way so that it slides back in, and that'll become clear, the reason for that, when we go inside to the toilet. Moving on along then, there is a wastewater tank, and that's housed just in this area here on the underside of the motorhome, and again you'll need to drain that down. And to do that, there's a little tap just here. So this is the pipe that the wastewater would come out of, and then that tap is just turned there to release the wastewater. So what you do is you just drive over the grid to the point where your wheel is just in front of the waste disposal point, which is generally a grid on these sites, and then release the wastewater down the grid. So here we have the garage and the storage area. First thing to note is this is where your battery is. This is your leisure battery, and there's a display on the control panel to show you what condition this battery is in. This is your charger unit, so that's what charges the battery from the main supply that you plug into, but we'll show you that when we go around the other side. Behind this plastic cover here is a bank of fuses. So they're the 12-volt fuses that correspond to the pictures on there, but I think they are actually listed in the instruction manual. So if you ever get a fault with, let's say, the lighting circuit or the water pump, for example, that's the water pump just there, then check these fuses here. So that's the 12-volt charger and bank of fuses. So this model has got a spare wheel. The toolkit, incidentally, is just underneath the passenger seat, just there. So that's the toolkit. So back to the garage. Yeah, the spare wheel is housed there. This has come from the previous owner with this awning. Now its completeness can't be guaranteed, but yeah, it's come with that from the previous owner. The awning winder handle is here. There is a separate video on how to use awnings, which I'll try and remember to include in the description for this video. So moving around then, we have the gas locker. So this will take two, it looks like 6 kilogram bottles. You will need a pipe that goes, so this is your gas regulator. So on the end of this you'll need a flexible hose, which again we sell in the shop. We don't leave them on because they perish, but you can pick one of those up on the day that you collect, and it comes off this threaded regulator here and goes off into the bottle. So your bottle would sit in here, and then you turn the tap, which is on top of the bottles, on and off, actually on the bottle itself. So that's how you isolate the gas supply. There is also another isolation tap just there, but yeah, the flexible hose goes onto the end of that one, and then the bottles are housed just with these straps to keep them in place. This is just the length of water hose for filling your fresh water that's been left in by the previous owner. So moving on around then, we have here, although this has got a spare wheel, it's also got an inflation kit. If you get a puncture and you just want to repair it quickly, there's a pump in there, so that's the inflation kit. There's some instruction manuals there. That's where the boiler is housed, so that deals with the heating of the vehicle and also the heating of the hot water, but the controls for that are inside. This also has a drain valve, and it's very important that that's drained down as well, but I'll show you that when we go inside. There's some vents here, some weather vents for the fridge. I'll actually just show you that while we're here. So on the side here we've got vents for the fridge. So what it does is it draws cool air in at the bottom and expels warm air at the top. In really cold weather and windy weather, sometimes you get breeze blowing through these vents here. You don't need to use them in summer. It's in fact probably counterproductive to use them in summer, but that's how they fit on. So they just click on like that, and then that's like a turn. You put a screwdriver or a 20 pence into that groove thing there, and then that's how they sit in position. So they're weather covers for the fridge vents. Just stick that back. This vent here is for the boiler, so that's the exhaust for the boiler. So if you're using your boiler on gas, it needs to vent off the exhaust from burning the gas, so that's where that's done. In really cold weather you'll see steam rising from this. It's not a problem. You'll probably see condensation gathering on the side of the van, but that's just the exhaust for the gas boiler. It's important that you leave that well ventilated. It doesn't, no debris to get into there, and if you park next to a wall or a hedge very tight, sometimes it can stop the boiler from working because it does need to vent, and there's a sensor in there. This is the where you plug into the mains supply, so on sites or at home even, you can plug in to get your mains supply. That's where that's done. You will need a cable for this. It hasn't got one with it, so again they're available in the shop, or if you just buy one online, the hookup cables. So when you plug it in, there's like a lid that, so the cable sort of has a lid that sits like that, and then you lift it up and the lid slides into there, and to release it you press that blue button down, and that releases the catch mechanism on the cable itself. So we've covered the fridge vents. We'll just move on to the inside of the motorhome now. So I'll just start at the front and work my way around methodically. These are both captains, the driver and passengers are both captain's chairs. To release the swivel mechanism on these, so these obviously swivel round, you do have to come forward and backwards a little bit to get them to go around the handbrake, which is just there. The mechanism to release, the catch release mechanism, is this here, and that's exactly the same on the other side. So they'll click into position when they're in the driving position, and then to release them you just pull that arm across, and that will allow you to swivel the seats around. Underneath that seat is actually air suspension setup, but I'll show you that as the final thing before we complete the video. Above the, so I'm above the habitation door here. We have the control panel, and this is telling you about your battery condition. So this first button here, you can see you've got two pictures of a battery. That's your leisure battery, so that's like in the back of the motorhome. So if you press that button, you can see that those LEDs have shot up to green, so that's in good condition. And then you've got an indication to show you that you've got also an engine battery, so that's your vehicle battery. And by pressing that, also you can assess the condition of your vehicle battery. This basically switches the whole 12-volt circuitry on and off, so you won't get any lights or the water pump or anything working without that 12-volt system switched on. Obviously the light switches are independent, dotted around the vehicle. The next one along is your water tank situation. So the top one, well, let's start with the bottom one. So the bottom one has got this little nodule on the bottom, so that's indicating that it's the waste tank. So if you press that, it's telling you what level the wastewater is. So when I opened that up, there was a little bit of residue waste in from when they've done the testing. And then the fresh water tank, if I'm pressing that there now and it's not showing anything, so that's indicating that there's no fresh water in the tank. That's a thermostat for the heating, so that's where it senses the temperature, and you've got a carbon monoxide alarm situated next to it, along with a smoke detector as well. Sorry, the last switch on here was the water pump. So when you first fill up with water, it's important that you purge the system. So you need to fill up with water, fill up your fresh water tank, switch this pump on, and then come over to your taps and switch it over to the hot side and let it flow. And you need to wait until you're getting a pure flow of water out of this tap. What that means is that it's pushed all the air out of the pipes and through the boiler, and then you're getting a pure flow of water out of your tap. If you don't do that and you switch your boiler on, you're just heating thin air in the boiler. So you need to fill up the boiler by pumping the water through from your fresh water tank, through all the pipe works, fill up your boiler, and then eventually it'll come out of your tap. So the only way you know that that's full is when you're getting a pure flow of water coming out of your tap. So that's an important setup step. So we've got the hob here, 3 burner gas hobs, dead straightforward, nothing I can say about that really, other than when you first put your gas on, same situation as with your water really, you need to purge the air out of the pipe work so that you're getting a pure flow of gas coming out of your hob and other gas appliances. If you don't do that, it'll fail to ignite on other appliances. So the easiest way to do it is to push a load of gas through with the gas hob, wait till it ignites, let it run for a few seconds, and then you know that the pipes are full of gas rather than air. So that's an important step to do when you first connect your gas bottles. Underneath that we have the fridge. Now this is a three-way fridge, so meaning that it'll run on three types of fuel. The first one being gas. So what that'll do is it'll ignite automatically. Now we haven't got any gas connected, there's no gas on this, so it will fail in a second. I think a red light will show here to indicate that it's failed. At the moment it's clicking away. I don't know whether you can pick that up, but it's, yeah, so that's warning you that it's not ignited. That's probably going to happen if you've not purged the air through, as I said, from your gas system. So unless you purge the air through on your hob, your fridge won't light. You'll be there forever trying to light your fridge because it only draws a little bit of gas. Next one along is mains electric. Again, the light's not come on, so it's warning you that we're not plugged into mains at the moment. So both those fuel types, both gas and electric, will run very efficiently and cool the fridge. The next one down is 12 volts. Now it doesn't come off the leisure battery, it comes off the engine battery. So this is for transit cooling. So what you need to do is get it cold first, either on gas or electric. So use gas if you're not plugged into mains, obviously. If you're off grid and you're in the middle of nowhere, then it'll run perfectly well on gas. If you're on a site and you've got electric, then run it on electric. And then when you're driving, if you want to keep the fridge cold for long journeys, move it over to this here, and that will keep the fridge cold as you're traveling. Next one along is the temperature control. So on a hot day like today, you probably want the fridge to work a little bit harder. So you want it in the more powerful setting here on the thermostat. On a really cold day, you don't want the fridge to work as hard because it will end up freezing. So that's the reason that there's a thermostat there for it. The fridge door will lock via this mechanism here. So if you close the door and then draw that across, it's locked it in position, so when you're traveling, it won't, all your all the goods in the fridge won't fall out. If you're not using the fridge for any length of time, you can see there's two positions on that little hook there. Leave the door slightly ajar so that the fridge can breathe, so that corresponds onto a little peg just there. So that hook goes onto the peg, and you can see there's two positions. So leave the fridge slightly ajar so that it can breathe and you won't get stagnant air building up in the fridge and it can start to smell. Moving on then, we've got the controls for the boiler. So this will deal with the heating of the water and also the heating of the motorhome. Okay, so the upper dial is for gas. So the way this works, there's 4 positions, in fact 5 positions. The middle one is off. As we work up, you've got 40 degrees water only, 60 degrees water only, back down to off, heating only, and heating and hot water on 60 degrees. You control the temperature by adjusting this knob here. So that's the temperature of your heating. The temperature of the water is dealt with by the selection of these here. The next one down is for electric. Now you can run it on gas and electric together, but if you're on a site then you're not paying for your electric, you might as well just use electric. So exactly the same situation, and the middle one is just heating only. Then you've got water only on 1 kilowatt, water only on 2 kilowatts, heating and hot water on 1 kilowatt, heating and hot water on 2 kilowatts. So the reason that they give you that option is if you're on a site and it's a low ampage site, they only really have this abroad, but some UK sites are low ampage, and you've got other electrical appliances, you know, like the kettle or something, and you've got this on the full kilowatt setting, it can blow the fuse on the site. So it just allows you to be more conscious of your power consumption. On the gas setting here, you'll probably notice that a red light came on, so that's operational, green, and then in a second a red warning light will come on here. So right, the amber one is telling you that it's being heated but isn't hot yet, and then in a second I think a red light will come on to say that it hasn't lit, and the reason it's not lit is because we've got no gas connected. Just let that come on. Okay, so we can see a red warning light there. That's warning you that the gas boiler hasn't lit because we've no gas. So if you start to see that, it means you've either run out of gas or you've not purged the system thoroughly enough using the method that I showed you before. So we'll switch all those off. In the wardrobe here, we have the circuit breaker for the mains supply. So just the same as you would have in your home, it's a domestic circuit breaker. So this is for the mains side of things. If there's a problem with an electrical appliance and it blows a fuse, these will trip into the down position. If you want to test that you've got a mains supply coming into the motorhome, you can press that red button there and that will flip down, that one there. So you can see that's not flipped down, indicating that we don't have a main supply coming in, which we don't. And we've got a fire extinguisher. The aerial is an adjustable aerial, so you can unscrew this here. Just one sec. Okay, so you unscrew that retaining clip there, and you can push this aerial up through the roof and then twizzle it around to adjust it to gain a better signal. Just make sure that that is down before you set off. This here is an amplifier box for the aerial, so that just amplifies the signal. So moving on around the motorhome then, we're in the bed area here. Just in here, in fact, in here. This box here, this black box, is the draining valve for the boiler. So it's important that you get all the water out of this motorhome in freezing conditions. So on this, it has like a diamond-shaped blue knob on the top there that you can. I'm just trying to point to there. So that is the drain down valve for the boiler. That is in the open position, so that will not hold any water in the boiler. And then if it's in the opposite position like that, that is closed, so that will retain all the water within the boiler. It's also thermostatic, so if the temperature reaches 6 degrees inside the vehicle, it will automatically drop all the water out of the boiler as a safety feature. It won't do that if the boiler is switched on, so if you've got your heating just ticking over nicely on the lowest setting to keep it warm, it won't switch off, so that overrides it. So again, the reason for that being there is to guard against the boiler becoming frost damaged. So if the water's left in that boiler and it freezes, it'll expand, it'll crack the boiler and all the pipe work associated with it. So that's the reason that there's a drain down for that boiler. It is very important that that's done. You've just got access to your garage via that hatch there. The carpets are just there for the habitation. I think there's cab carpets as well there. You've got lights which are individually switched in the corners. So onto the washroom then. Shower, dead straightforward. Not much to say there, just a single lever tap. Again, you're going to have to open up these taps when you first put water in the motorhome to get water flowing through all these pipe works, because obviously when you've drained it down, they'll be full of air and not water. When you are doing the drain down procedure, it's probably best to open up these taps to let air in as the water's coming out of the motorhome. So when you're draining it all down, then open up your taps. Same again on the bathroom tap here. So onto the loo operation then. To use the toilet, this valve here corresponds onto that turning valve on the cassette that I showed you outside. So the way to use it is to open this up So slide this across and it opens and closes that valve there. So open that up and then it gains access into that cassette which I showed you outside. Use the loo and then press the flush button, which is just here. So that's your flush. When it's full, when the cassette's full, that little light will come on. But you can actually see what the situation is via looking down there. But again, it's all that blue chemical gets rid of all the smells and solids, etc. And then when you're finished, make sure that you close that back up. If you don't, and then you set off driving, it can obviously splash around in the loo, go over the edges, which you don't want. Okay, so moving on to the final bits then. This is where your forward-facing dinette. I've just taken the cushion off, and then underneath here is where the freshwater tank is. So what you've got is that sits over there when the cushion's back on, and then you've got a cap that sits on, screwed on. Just make sure that that's tight, because when you're filling, that's where your fresh water comes in there via that thing that I showed you outside. When you're filling this up, it'll come up and it'll start pressurising this seal here, so you need to make sure that that's tightly on. To drain the water out of this tank, you need this little plug here. Now in the tank itself, it's going to be difficult to see this, but I'll try. In the tank itself, you can probably see there's a little hole just there in the corner. So what that does is you push that into it and then fold it down, a bit like a wine bottle seal, and then fold it down like that, and it expands in that seal and seals up the tank. So I'm going to put that in for you now because there's no water in it, so I'm going to put that in and seal it so it's ready to receive water. So that's that all put back together. This small dinette here, it will make a very small bed, but it is literally tiny. So if you want to do that, then you simply lift up the table and then it'll allow you to unclip it. So you can probably see how the mechanism works. There's like little teeth that sit into this groove section here, and by lifting it up, those little grooves, you expose those teeth from the groove. And so yeah, you lift up the table and then it'll allow you to clip it off, and then you can drop the table down onto the lower rail, which is just there, and then this table has an elbow joint in it, you can see. So then imagine this table has dropped down to the same level as the dinette seat, which is there, and then it'll allow you to drop the table so that it's flat, and then this will make a very tiny bed. You need to utilise these seats, the passenger seat, and swivel that round as it is there. Just move my jumper. So I'm outside the motorhome now. Get my finger out of the way. Underneath the seat here, which I talked about, this air suspension. So they're the dials for it. What it does is like it's bellows that are underneath the rear axle. So it'll allow you to strengthen the suspension basically on the rear axle. To pump it up, you press, there's a compressor there, and it compresses these bellows on the rear axle. So as you press that, it's building up pressure on these dials. To release pressure, you want them both at the same pressure really, but to release pressure, you press that in there so that they're roughly about the same reading. All it does is it strengthens the rear suspension and just gives it a better ride. If you're carrying heavy things in the rear garage, it just makes it a more pleasant drive. So that concludes the video. I'm happy to answer any questions you have in the interim. If not, we'll see you on the day that you collect, and we can answer any questions that you may have at that time. So we look forward to seeing you on the happy day that you pick up your new Adria Coral motorhome.